The massive ships appeared without warning. One moment, Earth's deep space scanner showed nothing unusual beyond Mars. The next moment, over 200 vessels materialized, each larger than anything humans had ever built. Captain Maya Chen stared at the display screen in NASA's Houston Command Center. Her coffee cup slipped from her fingers and shattered on the floor. Nobody noticed. "Tell me those aren't what I think they are," she whispered. Director Harlow stepped beside her, his face pale. "They're ships. Not ours. Not anyone's from Earth." Within hours, the news spread worldwide. Alien vessels had entered the solar system. Panic erupted in some cities while others fell into eerie silence. Religious leaders called for calm. Military forces around the world went to their highest alert level. 3 days later, a smaller ship broke away from the main fleet and headed toward Earth. Global leaders hastily organized an emergency meeting in Geneva, Switzerland. Representatives from every nation gathered in the United Nations building, waiting with a mixture of fear and hope. The alien ship landed precisely on the large lawn outside the UN building. It was sleek and silver, shaped like a teardrop, with no visible windows or doors. For 12 tense minutes, nothing happened. Then a section of the hull simply disappeared, and 5 tall figures stepped out. The aliens called themselves the Varaxians. They stood nearly 7 feet tall, with bluish-gray skin that seemed to shimmer slightly. Their 4 eyes, 2 large, ones where human eyes would be, and 2 smaller ones higher on their foreheads, blinked independently of each other. They wore what appeared to be ceremonial armor made of a material that changed color with their movements. The lead Voraxian introduced himself as Ambassador Krell. His voice came through a translation device that hung at his throat, making his words sound flat and emotionless. "We represent the Voraxian Imperium," he announced to the assembled human delegates. "Our empire spans 342 worlds across 78 star systems. We have come to add Earth to our domain." The human delegates exchanged worried glances. The Secretary General of the UN stepped forward. "We welcome peaceful contact with your civilization," she said carefully. "But Earth is not available to be added to anyone's domain. We are a free world with independent nations." Ambassador Krell's upper eyes blinked rapidly. The other Varaxians shifted as if uncomfortable. "Perhaps you misunderstand," Krell said. "This is not a negotiation. This is a notification of your new status. Your technological development has reached the level where we typically make contact. You will provide resources and labor to the Imperium. In return, you will receive protection and limited access to some of our technologies." President Alvarez of Mexico stood up. "And if we refuse these terms?" For the first time, Ambassador Krell showed something like emotion, a slight tilt of his head that might have been amusement. "Refusal is not an option that has been programmed into this discussion," he said. "But to satisfy your curiosity, those who refuse become examples. Your cities would burn. Your populations would be reduced to manageable numbers. The survivors would serve anyway, but with fewer privileges." The room erupted in angry shouts and protests. Security forces moved closer to the alien delegates, hands hovering near their weapons. "This is outrageous," shouted the British Prime Minister. "You cannot simply arrive and demand our submission." "We can," Krell replied simply. "We have done so on hundreds of worlds before yours. Some resisted briefly. None succeeded." Captain Chen, who had been invited as a scientific advisor, studied the aliens carefully. Something about their confidence bothered her. They truly believed humans would have no choice but to submit. The talks continued for hours. Human delegates tried to explain concepts of sovereignty, freedom, and dignity. The Varaxians responded with increasingly impatient dismissals of these primitive cultural constructs. Finally, as the afternoon wore on, 3 representatives from India, Brazil, and Kenya approached Ambassador Krell with a carefully worded counter-proposal. They suggested a limited partnership instead of submission, with fair trade and cultural exchange. Krell listened to their proposal, his 4 eyes blinking in that strange pattern again. Then, without warning, he raised a small device from his belt. Your persistent refusal to accept reality has become tedious, he said. A beam of intense light shot from the device. In an instant, the 3 human delegates were simply gone. Not even ash remained where they had stood. Screams filled the chamber. Security forces drew their weapons but hesitated. The other Varaxians had produced similar devices. That, said Ambassador Krell calmly, as if he had merely illustrated a minor point, is what happens to those who waste our time. Your planet will serve as a resource world for the Imperium. We will return in 6 of your days to begin the integration process. I suggest you use this time to prepare your populations for their new reality. The Varaxians turned and walked back to their ship. No one dared stop them. As their ship rose into the sky, Captain Chen watched from the window, her hands clenched into fists. They don't understand what they just did, she whispered. Beside her, a French general nodded grimly. They think they've demonstrated their power, he said. What they've actually done is unite every nation on Earth against them. Across the room, military leaders were already huddled together, speaking in urgent tones. Political rivals who had never agreed on anything were now sitting side by side, planning. The shock was giving way to something else. Cold, focused rage. That evening, as Ambassador Krell's ship rejoined the main fleet beyond Mars, he received a message from his emperor. Initial reports indicate these humans are primitive and will surrender quickly, the message read. Krell sent his reply. Indeed, Your Magnificence. These creatures know nothing of true warfare. They will be processing minerals for our central worlds within a month. What Ambassador Krell didn't know, couldn't possibly understand, was that he had just declared war on a species that had spent its entire evolutionary history learning to survive against impossible odds. A species that had been killing itself with increasingly sophisticated methods for thousands of years. A species that, when threatened, could become the most lethal force the galaxy had ever known. The war had begun, and the Varaxians had no idea what they had just awakened. 6 weeks after the Geneva incident, the world had changed. Old enemies now worked together. Factories that once made cars now produced weapons. Scientists from every nation shared their discoveries freely. The entire planet prepared for war. Captain Maya Chen, now Colonel Chen, stood on a rooftop in Chicago watching the sky. Intelligence suggested the Varaxians would attack today. She checked her watch, an old habit, as the time was also displayed on her tactical visor. Any movement? Asked General Williams, joining her at the edge of the roof. Nothing yet, sir, she replied. But they'll come. They always keep their threats. The general nodded. His face looked older than it had 6 weeks ago. Everyone's did. The civilians are in the underground shelters, he said. All military units are in position. We've done everything we can. Chen wasn't so sure. Humanity had prepared as best they could, but they were facing an enemy with technology centuries beyond their own. The odds were terrible. But then again, humans had always been good at beating the odds. The radio in her ear crackled. Multiple objects entering atmosphere. They're coming in fast. Chen and the general looked up. Bright streaks appeared across the blue sky as Varaxian ships pushed through the atmosphere. There were hundreds of them, smaller than the massive vessels that remained in orbit, but still impressive. Here we go, Chen said quietly. Good luck, sir. Good luck, Colonel. They separated, each heading to their command positions. Chen made her way to the underground bunker where her special operations team waited. They had been training with modified weapons based on what little they understood of Varaxian technology. They're landing at the designated coordinates, reported her communications officer. Just as we predicted, Chen nodded. The aliens were following the exact invasion plan that military strategists had anticipated. They were targeting major cities first, planning to take control of Earth's population centers. It was a strategy that had probably worked on countless other worlds. But Earth wasn't like those other worlds. The first Varaxian landing ships touched down in Chicago's Grant Park. Armored troops marched out in perfect formation, weapons ready. They moved with confidence, expecting little resistance. They were met with silence. The city appeared deserted. The Varaxian commander, Sub-Marshal Drevik, surveyed the empty streets with his 4 eyes. This wasn't what he expected. His intelligence. Briefing had shown millions of humans in this city. Advance with caution, he ordered his troops. The humans may be hiding. The Varaxian forces moved forward in tight groups, their armor gleaming in the sunlight. They reached Michigan Avenue without incident. That's when the first attacks came, not from soldiers in uniform, not from tanks or visible defense forces, but from the buildings themselves, from the sewers, from hidden positions that the Varaxians' scans had missed. Small groups of humans using guerrilla tactics, hit fast, then disappear, using simple but effective weapons that the aliens had dismissed as primitive. Drevik watched in shock as 3 of his squads were wiped out in less than 2 minutes. The humans were using projectile weapons, bullets, that somehow pierced Varaxian armor with ease. "Impossible," he shouted. "Their weapons are primitive. Our armor should stop them." What Drevik didn't know was that Earth scientists had studied the small piece of Varaxian technology they'd managed to recover after the Geneva incident. They had discovered a critical weakness in the alien armor. It was designed to deflect energy weapons, not physical projectiles moving at high speed. Bullets worked just fine, especially bullets made with special materials rushed into production over the past 6 weeks. Colonel Chen watched the battle from her command position via drone footage. "Move Team 2 into position," she ordered. "The aliens are falling back to their landing zone." The Varaxians were retreating but not giving up. They regrouped and called for air support. Their flying machines roared over the city, firing energy weapons that melted concrete and steel. Chen had expected this too. "Launch countermeasures," she ordered. From hidden positions, missile batteries fired. The weapons were a mix of traditional human technology and reverse-engineered Varaxian systems. They weren't perfect, but they were effective enough. 3 alien craft exploded in mid-air. Similar scenes played out in cities across the world. The Varaxians had expected an easy conquest. Instead, they found a united planet that had prepared specifically to fight them. Sub-Marshal Drevik, bleeding from a wound in his side, reached for his communication device. "This is Ground Force 1, requesting immediate reinforcements. The humans are using unexpected tactics and have adapted their weapons to penetrate our armor." The response came quickly. "Reinforcements? For primitives with no space travel capabilities? Explain yourself, Sub-Marshal." Drevik watched as another of his squads was ambushed. The humans would fire, then disappear into tunnels or buildings before his forces could respond effectively. "These humans," he said slowly, "don't fight like any species we've encountered. They don't stand and fight in formation. They hide, they strike, they vanish, and when we injure them, they don't surrender. They fight harder." On his command ship in orbit, Fleet Commander Vorex received similar reports from landing forces around the planet. This was not proceeding according to plan. "Send the second wave," he ordered. "Double the ground forces." His second in command looked concerned. "Sir, we've never needed a second wave for an initial invasion." "We do now," Vorex said grimly. As night fell over Chicago, Colonel Chen met with her team in their underground bunker. They had suffered losses, but far fewer than expected. The first wave of the alien invasion had been repelled. "They'll be back," she told her officers, "with more forces, and they'll adapt their tactics." "So will we," said Lieutenant Park, her weapons specialist. "We recovered 3 intact sets of their armor and several of their weapons. The science team is taking them apart now." Chen nodded. "That's our advantage. We adapt faster than anyone expects." In his ship orbiting Earth, Fleet Commander Vorex prepared his report to the Emperor. It was not a report he had ever expected to send. "The humans," he wrote, "are unlike any species we have conquered before. They have adapted our own technology against us with impossible speed. They fight with methods we have not encountered. They show no fear of superior forces." He hesitated before adding the final line. "For the first time in 8 centuries of Imperium expansion, I formally request additional reinforcements for what was classified as a simple conquest operation." The Emperor would not be pleased. No Varaxian commander had ever needed reinforcements to subdue a pre-spacefaring civilization. But then, they had never encountered humans before. 3 months had passed since the first Varaxian attack. 3 months of brutal fighting across every continent. Cities lay in ruins, but the alien invaders had failed to capture a single major population center. For the first time in their long history of conquest, the Varaxians faced a species that simply refused to be defeated. On the main Varaxian command ship, High General Zark reviewed the latest battle reports with growing concern. His 4 eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of stress in his species. "Impossible," he muttered, looking at the casualty figures. The Varaxians had lost nearly 30% of their invasion force. Against a pre-spacefaring civilization? Commander Vorex stood nearby, his posture stiff. As the officer who had first requested reinforcements, he had been nearly demoted. Now his warning seemed almost too conservative. "We are dealing with something unique, High General," Vorex said carefully. "These humans have several unusual characteristics." "Explain," ordered Zark. "First, their adaptability is unlike anything we've encountered. They learn our technology and tactics at an alarming rate. Second, they have pain tolerance that seems almost unnatural. They continue fighting with injuries that would incapacitate most species. Third, they have psychological resilience that defies logic. They simply do not accept defeat." Zark moved to the viewing screen showing Earth rotating below them. "And their technology? How have they advanced so quickly?" "That is perhaps most concerning of all," replied Vorex. "Our science vessels have intercepted their communications. They have teams of what they call engineers and hackers, who can reverse engineer our technology with minimal exposure to it." He pointed to a display showing a human weapon. "This device was created after they captured just one of our energy rifles. It shouldn't be possible to understand our technology so quickly, let alone reproduce it." Zark's skin darkened, a sign of deep worry among Varaxians. "The Emperor demands results. We have never failed in a conquest before. Perhaps we should study them more carefully before continuing the attack," suggested Vorex. "There may be weaknesses we haven't identified." Meanwhile, deep in the Rocky Mountains of what was once called Colorado, Colonel Chen led a team through a hidden facility. The space had been carved into the mountain decades ago as a government bunker. Now it served as a command center for human resistance. "The alien ship is being delivered today," she told the scientists walking beside her. "Our forces captured it intact during the battle in Australia." Dr. Patel, the lead scientist, could barely contain his excitement. "A functioning scout ship, with its propulsion system intact?" Chen nodded. "Everything is intact. The team managed to overpower the crew without damaging the vessel. This could be the breakthrough we've been waiting for," said Dr. Patel. "If we can understand their faster-than-light technology." They entered a massive underground hangar where the sleek Varaxian scout ship now rested. Teams of engineers already swarmed around it like ants, scanning and measuring every inch. "How long?" asked Chen. Dr. Patel studied the ship thoughtfully. "To fully understand it? Months, maybe years under normal circumstances." He smiled slightly. "But these aren't normal circumstances. Give us 3 weeks." Chen raised an eyebrow. 3 weeks to understand alien technology that's centuries beyond ours? "Colonel," Dr. Patel said firmly, 3 months ago we knew nothing about these aliens. Now we can build weapons that kill them, shields that block their energy beams, and communications systems that can intercept their transmissions. Humans are very good at figuring things out when our survival depends on it." Across the globe, similar scenes played out. In Japan, engineers had reverse-engineered Varaxian armor and were mass-producing an improved version. In Brazil, scientists had decoded the aliens' communication systems. In Egypt, a team had figured out how to detect Varaxian ships even when they tried to hide. Back on the Varaxian command ship, a junior officer rushed into High General Zark's chamber. "Sir, urgent news from Scout Team 7, the officer reported. "They've lost contact with their ship in Sector 18. Zark's 4 eyes narrowed. "Show me." The display showed the western part of North America. The scout ship's signal had disappeared in a mountain region. "Could it be a malfunction?" asked Zark. "No, sir. The last transmission indicated they were being pursued by human aircraft, then nothing. Vorex stepped forward. Sir, if the humans have captured an intact ship— He didn't need to finish the sentence. Both Varaxians understood the implications. If humans could adapt so quickly with just fragments of their technology, what could they do with an entire ship? Meanwhile, in the Emperor's palace on the Varaxian homeworld, the Emperor himself reviewed the concerning reports from Earth. No species had ever resisted them so effectively. No conquest had ever required so many resources. Bring me our best scientists, the Emperor ordered his attendant. I want to understand what makes these humans different. Days later, a team of the Imperium's finest scientific minds presented their findings. These humans evolved on what we would classify as a death world, explained Chief Scientist Mex. Their planet has thousands of predator species, extreme weather patterns, natural disasters, and even microscopic organisms that cause disease. Simply surviving on Earth requires exceptional adaptability. The Emperor listened with growing unease. Furthermore, continued Mex, humans have spent their entire history fighting each other. They have refined the art of warfare for thousands of years. While technologically primitive compared to us, their tactics and strategic thinking are highly advanced. Can they be defeated? The Emperor asked directly. The scientists exchanged uncomfortable glances. Yes, Your Magnificence, said Mex. But not with conventional methods. We would need to deploy the planet killers. The Emperor's skin paled. Planet killers were weapons of last resort, capable of rendering an entire world uninhabitable. In the 8th century history of the Imperium, they had only been used twice and never against a pre-spacefaring civilization. That is unprecedented, the Emperor said slowly. As is their resistance, replied Mex. After long consideration, the Emperor made his decision. Prepare my personal battleship. I will oversee this campaign myself. He turned to his military advisor. And begin preparations for deploying the planet killers. If these humans cannot be conquered conventionally, they leave us no choice. What the Emperor didn't realize was that his conversation had been intercepted by human hackers who had cracked the Varaxian transmission codes. Within hours, leaders around Earth knew that the aliens were preparing their ultimate weapons. In the mountain facility, Colonel Chen reviewed the intercepted transmission with military and scientific leaders. We have 3 weeks at most before their Emperor arrives with these planet killers, she said grimly. Whatever we're going to do with that scout ship, we need to do it fast. Dr. Patel nodded confidently. We'll be ready. The ship has already told us more than the Varaxians could imagine. They have no concept of information security. Their systems were designed without considering that anyone might try to break into them. For the first time in months, Chen allowed herself a small smile. So even their most advanced technology has weaknesses. Everything has weaknesses, replied Dr. Patel. Especially those who believe they're invincible. 6 months into the war, Earth had changed forever. Entire cities lay in ruins. Millions had died. But humanity had not surrendered. Instead, they had learned, adapted, and prepared. In a hidden facility beneath the Pacific Ocean, Colonel Chen, now General Chen, addressed the leaders of Earth's united military forces. The room was filled with grim-faced officers from countries that had once been enemies but now fought side by side. Today, Chen said, we stop defending and start attacking. She pressed a button, and a holographic display appeared above the table. It showed dozens of small ships scattered throughout the solar system. Thanks to Dr. Patel and his team, we now have our own fleet. These ships use Varaxian technology that we've modified and improved. They're smaller than the enemy's ships, but faster and harder to detect. Admiral Williams from the former United States Navy leaned forward. How many ships do we have? 116, Chen replied. Built in secret facilities around the world over the past 3 months. And crews? Asked General Okafor. From Nigeria. All trained on simulators based on the captured scout ship's control systems. They're ready. The plan was bold, perhaps even foolish. But after 6 months of barely surviving, humanity needed to take action. We will target their supply lines first, Chen explained, pointing to red dots on the display. The Varaxians bring resources from their other conquered worlds to support their fleet. Without these supply ships, their forces around Earth will weaken. As the military leaders discussed strategy, Dr. Patel entered the room with an excited expression. "General Chen, we've made another breakthrough." All eyes turned to him. Patel had become a symbol of humanity's ingenuity in this war. His team had reverse-engineered more Varaxian technology in 6 months than the aliens thought possible in decades. "We've cracked their communication encryption completely," Patel announced. "We can not only listen to all their transmissions, but we can also send false messages that they'll believe are from their own commanders." A murmur of excitement spread through the room. Chen allowed herself a small smile, the first in weeks. "Psychological warfare," she said. "Something the Varaxians don't understand at all." The rigid, hierarchical Varaxian society had never encountered an enemy that would use deception and trickery as primary weapons. They fought with overwhelming force and expected their enemies to do the same. But humans had been deceiving each other for thousands of years. They were experts at it. 3 days later, Operation Counterstrike began. Human ships, built with stolen and improved alien technology, slipped past the Varaxian defenses using stealth systems that Dr. Patel's team had developed. On the bridge of the lead ship, named Defiance, Captain James Rodriguez watched the main display nervously. He had been a commercial airline pilot before the war. Now he commanded humanity's most advanced spacecraft. "Enemy supply convoy detected," reported his sensor officer. 6 transport ships with 2 military escorts, just as intelligence predicted. Rodriguez nodded. "All ships move into attack position. Remember, take out the escorts first, then disable the transports. We want to capture their cargo intact if possible." The human fleet moved silently through space, invisible to Varaxian sensors thanks to technology that the aliens didn't know humans possessed. When they struck, it was with devastating precision. 20 human ships surrounded the Varaxian convoy. The alien escorts were destroyed before they could send a distress signal. The transport ships, suddenly defenseless, tried to flee but were quickly disabled. Similar attacks happened simultaneously across the solar system. In less than 6 hours, humanity destroyed or captured 37 Varaxian supply vessels without losing a single ship. On Earth, the second phase of the operation began. Using the cracked communication codes, human hackers flooded the Varaxian military network with false information. They created phantom human fleets that didn't exist. They sent contradictory orders to alien commanders. They made it appear that some Varaxian units had betrayed others. Confusion spread through the invaders' ranks. Some units retreated from battles they could have won. Others attacked their own allies, believing they were facing human forces in disguise. Meanwhile, human diplomats made contact with other species that had been conquered by the Varaxian Imperium. Using communication codes found in the captured ships, they sent messages offering alliance against their common oppressor. Many of these subjugated species had never considered rebellion possible. The Varaxian Imperium had seemed invincible, but now seeing humans not only resist but actually fight back successfully, they began to question their submission. On the Varaxian command ship, High General Zark faced the most difficult moment of his career. The Emperor's ship was only 2 weeks away, and the situation was deteriorating rapidly. How could they possibly have ships operating in the outer system? He demanded, staring at reports of human attacks near Jupiter. They barely had orbital capabilities when we arrived. Commander Vorax had given up trying to explain the inexplicable. These humans do not follow normal patterns of technological development, sir. They leap forward, especially when threatened. And these communication disruptions? The false orders? Their hackers have somehow broken our encryption. We're working on new security protocols, but enough excuses, shouted Zark. The Emperor will be here soon. If we haven't shown progress by then, we will all face his displeasure. Just then, a junior officer entered with a prisoner, a captured human pilot from one of the few Earth ships that had been damaged in the attacks. This one was recovered from the wreckage near Mars, sir, reported the officer. The others in his crew killed themselves rather than be captured. Zark approached the human, studying him with all four eyes. The prisoner was injured but stood straight, meeting the alien general's gaze without fear. "You must understand your situation is hopeless," Zark told the human. "Even with these surprising developments, your species cannot stand against the full might of the Imperium. The Emperor himself comes with our planet-killer weapons. Your resistance, while impressive, is futile." The human pilot, Lieutenant Sarah Connor, smiled slightly despite her pain. "You still don't get it, do you? No species has ever counterattacked the Imperium before, have they?" Zark blinked in surprise at her insight. "That's your weakness," continued Connor. "You've conquered hundreds of worlds, but none of them ever fought back effectively. You have no experience with real warfare, just overwhelming force against weaker opponents." "Silence," ordered Zark, unsettled by the human's confidence. "Take the prisoner away for proper interrogation." After the human was removed, Vorex approached cautiously. "Sir, our intelligence team has discovered something concerning. The humans appear to be communicating with several of our subject worlds. They're attempting to foment rebellion." Zark's skin paled. The Imperium had never faced internal rebellion before. Their core worlds had minimal defenses. They had never needed them. "Increase security on all communication channels to subject worlds," he ordered, "and prepare all forces for the Emperor's arrival. We will end this human problem once and for all." What Zark didn't know was that Lieutenant Connor had allowed herself to be captured. The tracking device hidden under her skin was already transmitting the command ship's location and defenses to Earth's military headquarters. General Chen received the data and immediately called her command staff. "We have the location of their flagship. Prepare our best teams for a boarding operation." The final phase of Operation Counterstrike was about to begin. 1 year after first contact, Earth was a different planet. Great cities lay in ruins. Billions had died. Those who survived had been transformed. Former office workers now served as soldiers. Scientists worked around the clock. And children, trained to fight almost as soon as they could walk. But the Viraxians had failed in their goal. After a full year of war, they still did not control Earth. In what was once called Geneva, the city where it all began, General Maya Chen stood in the ruins of the United Nations building. The irony wasn't lost on her. This was where Ambassador Krell had killed 3 human delegates and started the war. Now she was planning humanity's most daring operation yet. "The Emperor's ship will arrive tomorrow," she told her gathered officers. "Our spy network confirms that he's bringing at least one planet-killer weapon." The room fell silent. Everyone knew what that meant. The Viraxians had lost patience with conventional warfare. They planned to make Earth an example to other resisting planets. "We have one chance," Chen continued. "A direct assault on the Emperor's flagship before he can deploy the weapon." Captain Rodriguez, now a veteran of dozens of space battles, shook his head. "The Emperor's personal guard will be the best they have, and his ship is supposedly twice the size of their regular battleships." Chen nodded. "That's why most of our fleet will be a distraction. The real mission is a small team boarding the flagship and capturing the Emperor himself." Gasps and murmurs filled the room. It seemed impossible, suicidal even. "Who would lead such a mission?" asked Admiral Williams. Chen's expression was grim. "I will." The next day, the Emperor's massive ship appeared in Earth orbit, accompanied by a fleet of smaller vessels. It was an impressive sight. The ship was the size of a small city, covered in weapons and defensive systems. Inside the flagship, the Viraxian Emperor surveyed Earth through a viewing screen. His 4 eyes narrowed at the sight of the battered, but unconquered planet. 8 centuries of expansion, he said to his advisors. Hundreds of worlds added to our domain, and none have resisted like this insignificant blue planet. High General Zark stood nearby, his posture stiff. The past year had been disastrous for his career. "The humans are unique, Your Magnificence, but they have suffered greatly. Our estimates suggest they have lost over 2 billion of their population. And yet they fight on," the Emperor noted. "Prepare the planet killer. We will target their largest remaining population center first. Once they see what it can do, Perhaps the survivors will finally understand their situation. As the Varaxians prepared their ultimate weapon, sensors detected a large fleet of human ships approaching from behind Earth's moon. As expected, said the Emperor, a final, desperate attack. Destroy them. The battle that followed was the largest space conflict in Imperium history. Human ships, now built with fully understood and improved Varaxian technology, engaged the alien fleet in a chaotic dance of energy weapons and explosions. What the Emperor didn't realize was that this was exactly what humanity wanted him to think, that they were throwing everything they had into one final, hopeless battle. While the main fleets clashed, a single small ship approached the Emperor's flagship from below, hidden by the planet's magnetic field and new stealth technology developed by Dr. Patel's team. On board was General Chen and 50 of Earth's best soldiers. Approaching target, reported the pilot. Their defense systems haven't detected us. Chen checked her weapon, a hybrid design combining Varaxian energy technology with human tactical innovation. Her team carried similar equipment, all designed for the specific purpose of fighting inside the alien flagship. Remember, she told her soldiers, this is a capture mission, not an execution. We need the Emperor alive to stop this war. Their ship attached to the flagship's hull near what intelligence identified as a maintenance hatch. Engineers quickly cut through the outer shell and Chen's team entered the massive alien vessel. Meanwhile, on the bridge of the flagship, alarms suddenly blared. Your Magnificence, reported a panicked officer. We're detecting intruders inside the ship. The Emperor rose from his command chair in shock. Impossible! How could they board us undetected? High General Zark rushed to check the security screens. They're heading for the main power core and the planet killer control room. How do they even know where those are? Demanded the Emperor. No one had an answer. The truth, that human intelligence had mapped the entire ship using data stolen from Varaxian networks, was too terrifying to consider. Deploy all internal security forces, ordered the Emperor. Kill the intruders immediately. Inside the massive ship, Chen's team split into two groups. One headed for the power core while Chen led the second group toward the planet killer control room. They encountered heavy resistance. Varaxian soldiers were everywhere, and fighting in the narrow corridors was brutal. Chen lost good people with every passing minute, but they pushed forward, their determination unwavering. In the control room, the Emperor watched with growing horror as the human intruders systematically overcame his defenses. These creatures fought with a savagery and efficiency he had never witnessed in any species. Activate the planet killer now, he ordered. Target their approaching fleet. But Your Magnificence, protested his weapons officer. The human fleet is too close to our own ships. We would hit our vessels as well. Do it anyway, screamed the Emperor. We can rebuild ships. We cannot allow these humans to. The door to the bridge exploded inward. Through the smoke and debris stepped General Chen, leading a small group of surviving soldiers. Their armor was damaged and many were wounded, but their weapons were aimed steadily at the Varaxian leadership. Emperor, said Chen calmly, this ends now. Varaxian guards moved to protect their ruler, but Chen's soldiers fired first, stunning them with weapons specifically calibrated to overwhelm Varaxian nervous systems. The Emperor himself reached for a personal weapon, but Chen was faster. A single shot from her hybrid rifle left the alien leader paralyzed but conscious. You, the Emperor managed to say, his four eyes wide with disbelief. How is this possible? You're just primitives. Chen approached slowly, her weapon still aimed at the Emperor's head. That was your first mistake. We were never primitive. We were just different. We evolved on a world that tried to kill us. Every day. We spent thousands of years fighting each other, perfecting the art of war. Around the flagship, the space battle continued. But inside, humans had gained control of the most crucial systems. The second team had secured the power core and was preventing the Varaxians from activating the planet killer weapon. Chen activated her communication device. This is General Chen to all Earth forces. We have captured the Emperor and secured the flagship. Prepare to broadcast on all Varaxian frequencies. She turned back to the Emperor, who lay helpless before her. Now, she said, you're going to order all your forces to stand down. You're going to tell them that the war is over. And if I refuse? Asked the Emperor, his voice weak. Chen's expression was cold. Then we'll use your own planet killer against your homeworld. You've seen what we're capable of. Do you really want to test us further? For the first time in his long life, the Varaxian Emperor knew true fear. These humans had done what no species had ever done. They had not just resisted the Imperium, they had defeated it. All Varaxian forces, he said when Chen activated the broadcast. Stand down. I repeat, stand down. The war with Earth is over. Across the solar system, alien ships ceased firing. The impossible had happened. Humanity had won. 2 years after the Varaxians' arrival, a human-led fleet approached the Imperium's capital world. The massive ships, a blend of Earth and Varaxian technology, moved with purpose through the alien star system. On the lead vessel, renamed Unity, General Maya Chen stood on the bridge watching as the Imperium's homeworld grew larger on the main screen. The planet was beautiful, covered in sprawling cities that gleamed in the light of its orange sun. It's hard to believe we're actually here, said Dr. Patel, who stood beside her. Once just a scientist, he now served as Earth's ambassador to the former Varaxian Imperium. Chen nodded. 2 years ago, we didn't even know aliens existed. Now we're about to dictate terms to an empire that spans 1,000 worlds. The journey to this moment had been difficult. After capturing the Emperor and forcing the surrender of Varaxian forces in Earth's solar system, humanity had spent months securing their victory. They had sent ships to other conquered worlds, helping local species overthrow their Varaxian overlords. They had studied and mastered faster-than-light travel. And they had prepared for this final meeting, the official end of a war that had nearly destroyed human civilization. On the Varaxian homeworld, the news of the approaching fleet spread quickly. Citizens who had never known defeat now faced the unimaginable, conquerors coming to their planet. The Imperium's ruling council, governing in the Emperor's absence, debated desperately how to respond. We should fight, insisted one council member. Our homeworld defenses are strong. And fail like our forces at Earth did, countered another. These humans captured our Emperor and seized control of his flagship. They have proven themselves formidable. In the end, there was no real choice. The Emperor, still a prisoner, had ordered cooperation. The humans would be received with full diplomatic protocol. When the human ships entered orbit, a delegation was invited to the Imperial Palace. Chen led the small group, which included Dr. Patel, Admiral Williams, and one more person, Ambassador Maria Gonzalez, the sole surviving diplomat from the original Geneva meeting where the war began. The Imperial Palace was magnificent, a sprawling structure of crystalline towers and sweeping arches that seemed to defy gravity. The human delegation was escorted through grand hallways by nervous Varaxian officials. Crowds of citizens watched them pass, their 4 eyes blinking rapidly at the sight of the strange two-eyed creatures who had defeated their invincible military. Finally, they reached the throne room. The Emperor, returned to his homeworld but still effectively a prisoner, sat on his ornate throne. Around him stood the Imperial Council, the highest authorities in what had been the most powerful civilization in known space. Chen studied the Emperor carefully. He seemed diminished somehow, his bluish skin paler than she remembered. The human delegation is recognized, announced a Varaxian official. They come to present terms for peace. Ambassador Gonzalez stepped forward. It was only right that she, one of the original diplomats who had faced Ambassador Krell's arrogance, should speak for humanity now. 2 years ago, she began, her voice steady, your representative came to our world. He offered us slavery or death. He killed my colleagues to demonstrate your power. Today, we come to your world not seeking revenge, but justice and a lasting peace. The Emperor shifted uncomfortably on his throne. The humans have proven their capacity for warfare. We accept that the Imperium must change. What terms do you propose? Dr. Patel activated a holographic display showing a map of the former Imperium. First, said Gonzalez, all conquered worlds will be given their independence. The Varaxian Imperium, as an entity that controls other species, is dissolved. Gasps and murmurs spread through the Varaxian officials. This was more severe than they had expected. Second, a new organization will be formed, the Galactic Confederation. All species, including Varaxians, will have equal representation. No single species will dominate another. Third, all planet-killer weapons and similar devices of mass destruction will be surrendered and destroyed under supervision. Finally, war reparations will be paid to Earth and other worlds damaged by Varaxian conquest. These will include technology sharing, assistance rebuilding, and educational exchange. The Emperor's 4 eyes blinked rapidly. You do not demand territory, resources, slaves? Chen stepped forward. That's not who we are. Unlike you, we don't believe in enslaving others. We want partnership, not domination. One of the council members rose in anger. This is still humiliating. The mighty Varaxian civilization reduced to equals with primitive species. Equals, Admiral Williams said quietly. No. Right now, you're not our equals. We defeated you. We could destroy this world with your own weapons if we chose to. Instead, we're offering you a chance to become part of something better than an empire built on fear. The angry council member fell silent, unable to argue with the truth of this statement. After hours of discussion, the terms were accepted. The Emperor, with visible reluctance, signed the agreement that ended the Varaxian Imperium and began the Galactic Confederation. As the human delegation prepared to leave, a young Varaxian scientist approached Dr. Patel. I must ask, she said, hesitantly, how did your species advance so quickly? It should have been impossible to master our technology in such a short time. Patel smiled. Your civilization has been dominant for so long that you forgot how to innovate. You stopped looking for new solutions because the old ones always worked. We've spent our entire history solving problems just to survive. And your warfare skills, she continued. No species has ever fought like yours. We evolved on a death world, Chen explained, using the Varaxian term for planets with highly dangerous environments. Everything on Earth, the animals, the plants, even microscopic life could kill us. We became the perfect survivors because we had to. Later, as they returned to their ship, Ambassador Gonzalez looked back at the Varaxian capital city. Do you think they understand yet? She asked Chen. That they picked the worst possible species to threaten? Probably not fully, Chen replied. But they're learning. In the years that followed, the Galactic Confederation grew and flourished. Earth became a central member, not through conquest but through leadership and innovation. The knowledge gained from contact with other species accelerated human development in ways no one could have predicted. Many in the galaxy had expected humans to establish their own empire after defeating the Varaxians. Some even feared they would be more brutal conquerors than the Imperium had been. But humanity surprised them. As an alien diplomat from a formerly conquered world observed at a Confederation meeting, the humans' greatest strength isn't their ferocity in war, but their capacity for mercy and victory. They could have destroyed the Varaxians completely, but instead they helped them become better. Though make no mistake, they remain the most lethal species alive. Fortunately for us all, they choose to use that strength to protect rather than to dominate. The lesson of the Varaxian War spread throughout the galaxy. If you value your civilization, never threaten humanity. They may look primitive, they may seem disorganized and divided, but when provoked they become something terrifying. Or as the saying goes in the diplomatic corps of a dozen worlds, congratulations, you just declared war on the most lethal species alive. May whatever gods you worship have mercy on you because the humans certainly won't.